I am William Hall, and this is another episode of the ASUN Gameday podcast. Welcome back. Let's go ahead and just dive right into it. Dive right into ASUN basketball. We've been rolling along. We've been going a lot of exciting things happening around the conference. Look, on the women's side, I understand Central Arkansas is the last undefeated team in women's basketball for the ASUN. I don't want to overlook that. UCA has looked dominant so far, but I think Lipscomb arguably is the hottest women's basketball team we have right now. I mean, after starting the season, what they lost in the opener, the Bisons haven't really done much, just win 5 games in a row. I mean, we've got a 13-point win against Mississippi Valley, 50-point against Johnson, 22-point win against Tennessee State. There was a tight one there, 1-point win against ETSU, then an 18-point win against Morehead State. I mean, this team had 8 wins at home last season, and they've already got 4 this year inside Allen Arena. So I think Lipscomb is I don't think Lipscomb is looking good, but I think that Lipscomb is going to stay good. That's what I'll say. That's how I'll break that down. I feel like Jacksonville, that the win they had just earlier this week, the way they just turned it on at the end when they needed to, it's impressive. I think that they're going to be a problem. I think that that's a team that, come mid to late February heading into our conference tournament, I think they're going to be in the mix. And then you got Eden Battle. I mean, she's making an early case for ASUN Player of the Year. She's averaging right now just over 21 points per game. So if that Dolphins team can stay healthy, tsunami could be coming. And then I just want to congratulate Chelsea Lyles on first win in her era down in Fort Myers of taking over the FGCU Eagles program. Got a 20-point win against NJIT. Their first home game of the season. And now that team is going right back on the road. I think they're playing Georgetown and Cincinnati this weekend. So road tests are coming right back for the Eagles, but good to see her starting off her era down there as the head of that program with a win. 1-0 in the Chelsea Lyles era for FGCU. So, again, as I said last week, know there's some shakeup. I know there's some opportunity, definitely, but FGCU is still here until something happens differently in March. I can't ignore what they have going on and might have cooking down there in Alico Arena. On the men's basketball side, look, historic start to the season, probably wasn't going to be able to be sustained at that level, and that's fine. That's fine. But now I really want to see who is going to work to separate themselves. Not to say that we won't have other wins that are going to be, head turners nationally. That can always happen. We got teams that go out there and fight and play every week. But now on the men's side, I'm kind of looking to see, okay, who is that team that's going to position themselves to, again, the separator, trying to pull away in some non-conference play to head into conference action with the teams that we're kind of keeping our eyes on, so to speak. And Austin Peay, I think, is a team that rightfully so has gained some attention. They just suffered their first loss of the season, but it's on the road at Tennessee. No shame in that, clearly. But Austin Peay is a team that I feel is going to be in the mix. I think we came into this year looking at Austin Peay coming off a championship final appearance, and then they started the season off 3-0, including that win against Butler. So the Tennessee loss doesn't change much about how I'm viewing Austin Peay this early in the season. In North Florida, they still have a chance to be a problem. I know they're coming off back-to-back losses. They lost to Georgia. They had the loss to UNC Asheville at home. But as of now, we can't ignore the start that they had. That team is still that team. I think comparing to other programs inside the ASUN, North Florida is still, at this point, you can't write them off. You can't write them off despite the back-to-back losses. And North Alabama, I think it's still in the mix for a team that I'm waiting to see what they can do. And Not solely because of Jakari Lane, but a big reason of that. Jakari Lane is obviously a factor. I mean, Jakari Lane and J.O. from Lipscomb, both of them are averaging over 20 points per game so far this season. Jakari Lane is got 107 points early in the year. He's 12th in the nation. The guy's a scorer. The guy's on the court. He's a game changer. And I think he's going to keep North Alabama in some games. I mean, that Samford game was really exciting to see the crowd they had for that game. I mean, that game got pushed into overtime. They did lose the game, but that was I don't know, that was crazy. I know Patrick has been telling me he's Jakari Lane. He's a Jakari Lane guy. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm gonna work on trying to get him a jersey, get him decked out.
I love Jakari.
I know.
He's great.
He is great, and not that I doubted, but he's continuing to improve on the foundation that he's already laid in the ASUN and with North Alabama, and it's solid. And speaking of easy transition here, let's just roll right into our weekly awards. On the men's side, it was a North Alabama sweep. We had Jakari Lane winning Player of the Week, and we had Cornelius Williams winning our Newcomer of the Week on the men's side. And Jakari, he averaged 27 points across those two games. He had 22 against UT Martin. He had 32 in that overtime loss to Samford. Williams, he averaged a double-double across those same two games, and he had a career-high 17 in the loss to Samford. So, again, North Alabama had a great week, even though they went 1-1 on the week, but they were very impressive, and clearly our voters felt the same because those are our two players of the week on the men's side. Now, looking on to women's basketball, I already have mentioned him, but Central Arkansas, Jade Upshaw, she took 14 shots to score a career-high 22 against UT Martin. That kept UCA, already mentioned, 3-0, undefeated on the season. Our newcomer and our freshman of the week on the women's side, 2 for 1, so to speak. Samaya Wyatt from Austin Peay claimed both of those awards. She came through. She had 26 points in a win at Indiana State. She had 16 points against Miami of Ohio. She pulled down 8 boards in both of those games. So performance like that, you take 2 awards home. Take them back to Clarksville. Those were our weekly awards. When I get back, I'm going to take a quick break, and we're going to jump into some power rankings. We got to keep it going. I couldn't go a week without the power rankings. Hopefully you can't either. We'll be right back.
From the bluegrass of Kentucky, the Arkansas River, to the beautiful beaches of Florida. From the bustling streets of Nashville to the soulful sounds of Muscle Shoals and its vibrant cities. Fueled by growth, the Atlantic Sun operates in the fastest growing region in America and broadcasting in over 20 million homes. We're everywhere you want to be, with access to 9 of the nation's top 80 media markets, including an impressive 6 in the top 50. Our 12 member institutions provide every collegiate experience from public to private to faith-based. All of our member institutions are located in the top 30 states with the most rapid growth, including 8 members located in the top 6. From the beaches to the mountains, the Atlantic Sun is the destination.
We are back, and it is time for the power rankings. I think I'm gonna start with women's basketball. Number 6, I've got EKU. Number 5, North Alabama. Number 4, took a bit of a fall. Bellarmine, I've got it at number 4. I know they were number 1 last week. I've dropped down a little bit, but hey, 4 out of 12 isn't bad. I still think that team is going to end up in a good spot at the end of it, when everything shakes out. Number 3 on the women's side, I already mentioned them earlier in the podcast. Top 3 are teams I've already talked about. Jacksonville. The team has a lot of fight. They play hard. I think so far we've seen. I mean, I still think they could have. I know coulda, shoulda, woulda the Miami game, but that game really showed me a lot about that team. Was very impressed with that. So right now they're third in my power rankings this week. Number 2, although they're undefeated, the Sugar Bears, Central Arkansas, is my number 2 team because my number 1 team, I kind of laid it out before, 5 wins in a row. Lipscomb Bisons right now I think are the number 1 team in women's basketball this week. I see you looking at me. I see you looking. What you got?
I have questions. I'm curious why you have UNA in your top 6 there. They have a big test against Nebraska that hasn't happened as right now, having recorded. Obviously, that game will have happened. Mm-hmm. So barring a big upset in that game, I'm curious why you have UNA in the top 6.
It's tough early. I get it. It's tough early to try to break down, why I put somebody in the top 6. I think North Alabama, they're 2-2. They're not having the best of years. But if you keep going down, if you look down our standings, trying to find a team that could potentially be higher than them. Now, I get your question is
there is a team, in my opinion, I'd put in the top 6.
Is your question UNA too high or UNA too low?
I think I would have left UNA out of the top 6, but probably just outside of the top 6, and I probably would have had Florida Gulf Coast.
Really?
And I understand why you might not put Florida Gulf Coast just from a strict power rankings standpoint, but their past win that's a statement win.
I think it is a statement win for new coach.
Chelsea Lyles gets her first win.
Fair.
By a lot.
Again, 20 points.
They killed in that game.
Yes.
At home, granted.
It's at home and it's NJIT. Now,
former conference rival.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. I will say that I do not think that win was enough to just say, considering that where I had North Alabama before, is FGCU just jumping into the top 6. I get it. You got to win. Is the NJIT win great? I mean, UNA's coming off a loss to Kansas. I get it. I understand the question. So do you think, since I had EKU 6, you think EKU, no questions about EKU, it's just North Alabama specifically that you were kind of wondering?
I like EKU there. EKU hung in with Michigan State this week up until about, I want to say the 4-minute mark in the third quarter, and then things just stopped going right for them. But they were in that game the whole time, and that's a very, very, very quality opponent in the Big Ten. Michigan State will be in the tournament at the end of the year. So a lot of good looks for EKU. I think they deserve that spot.
But UNA and Kansas doesn't really do it for you. But
no.
NJIT, though, NJIT is I've been wrong before. I will be wrong again. I encourage the discourse. The question. Question me. I think FGCU is a strong 7, and if I did a top 7, they would be in the top 7. But right now, today, I'm not putting them in my top 6.
I would say this: UNA to me is going to be the sleeper team. I think coming into the year, I think they might end up being the team that they're in the semifinals with a chance to go to the championship game. They might. I think they could be that team. I just as it sits right now, I wouldn't have put them in my power rankings. Especially, and like I said, I think FGCU deserves to be in that top 6 after Chelsea Lyle's first win. November
19th, 11:52 a.m. Eastern time. Mark the tape. UNA sleeper team.
Yep.
Okay, you're no doubt about it. You're a UNA guy. I get it. We love UNA. We love UNA.
Yeah, we do. We do.
Semifinal.
Throwing a lot of labels around here.
Semifinal.
Give it to me. I'll take it.
I would love to see it. So let's see what you have to say about my men's rankings then. Number 6 is Jacksonville on the men's side. Number 5 is Lipscomb. Number 4, I've got EKU. Number 3, I've got North Alabama. 2 is North Florida. 1 is Austin Peay.
I think you pretty much nailed that on the head.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do what I can when I can. It's been I won't call it a bad week for men's basketball. It's been a tough week, challenging week. We've got a lot of teams who have lost one or lost a couple of games or a handful. So waiting to turn this men's thing around from a slower week. But I feel good about where they are right now. North Florida, as I said earlier, still right now you can't discredit their start. But Austin Peay does not have the loss on their record right now that you would say that's one we thought they would have done better in. I mean, obviously we wanted them to take down Tennessee, but when you look at that, that's not what you would, you don't call that a bad loss. I can't say that North Florida has had a bad loss, but they have more losses than Austin Peay does right now. So that's kind of why I'm shaking out with Austin Peay at number 1. Glad to hear that you agree with me that you're not tearing my power rankings apart for a mistake I made. So
I thought you would have kept Jacksonville out, and I think Jacksonville has done enough in the first part of the season to warrant that. I think they'll continue to get better.
I'm waiting for them to. I'm waiting for them to turn on
To have the moment.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think it's
Agreed.
coming. I
agree.
Coming. I think it's coming. So, speaking of what's coming, let's talk about some matchups to watch and things that are coming around the corner in the ASUN. Lipscomb hosting Evansville on Saturday. They're looking to get 6 in a row. Not that they're looking past the Aces. I'm not looking past that game, but if they can, then they go into a game with UTC next Monday looking to make it 7 in a row. And Jacksonville on the women's side, they have a big one down at the State Farm Fieldhouse at the ESPN Wide World of Sports. They're taking part in the WBCA showcase, and they face off against Mississippi State on Sunday. Another strong test for the Dolphins, but I'm curious to see. I know they got a game with USF before that, I believe. So curious to see when we're talking next week what the Dolphins have done on the week. And on the men's side, FGCU. They got an MTE they're hosting inside Alico Arena. They got Cal State Bakersfield, Northeastern, and FIU. It's been a bit of a slow start for the Eagles, but this is a perfect opportunity to grab some wins. So they've got teams coming into their arena. Really curious to see what they are able to do over the next week, especially this weekend with those 3 games lined up. And our reigning champion Stetson is also taking part in the MTE this weekend in Daytona. So we'll stay tuned to see what the Hatters can do if they can also pile up a couple wins with several games coming up. And looking outside basketball as we do this time of year, still closing out our fall championship season. So with that, I want to congratulate North Florida on winning their first men's soccer championship since 2015. Hey, if you did not see that game when it happened, for whatever reason if you're watching this, I'm assuming that you are a fan. If you're listening, you're a fan of Atlantic Sun Conference Sports. If you did not see that game, it's on ESPN Plus. Go back and watch it. I think for what we could have expected for a men's soccer championship final, that game had it all. I mean, we had all the goals we could have asked for in regulation. Then we get no goals in overtime, obviously, because we ended up going to PKs to solve it, and North Florida ended up taking it. So, I mean, that game was exciting. Shout out to Central Arkansas for an amazing season. That game was crazy. I admittedly am not the biggest men's soccer fan just overall, but I mean, our men's soccer this year was exciting to watch, and it's also, that turnaround that UNF has done on the men's soccer side, just going from where they were last season in conference play to where they are this year, ASUN champions. That's an amazing turnaround. Exciting to see what our ASUN Coach of the Year, Jamie Davies, can do moving forward with the Ospreys. So congratulations on that. And then this week, we're heading down to Fort Myers. So in the middle of that MTE, there's a bigger event happening, which is the ASUN Volleyball Championship. We got 8 teams coming down there, ready to crown our champion on Saturday. We've got FGCU coming in as the 1 seed again. I mean, we've got just a lot of exciting teams. We've got Central Arkansas going to be there, North Florida, North Alabama, EKU, Jacksonville's back in the tournament. We've got Lipscomb there, who's always in the mix for our volleyball championship, and then Queens making their first appearance in the ASUN championship since becoming a member of the conference and moving to Division I. So it's going to be exciting 3 days down in Fort Myers for our volleyball championship. So Patrick and I headed down there for that. Can't wait for that tournament.
It's going to be great coverage.
It's going to be great. Going to be amazing. So we're at the point now. Is it mailbag time, Patrick?
Yeah, we got a question for you coming from the mailbag here on our Instagram page. I'm curious, if the season ended today, who would be the player of the year? We got this question specifically for men's, but I thought it'd be a good idea to also include women's basketball as well.
The season ended today.
I think there is an obvious answer here. There's two, I guess. There's two. There's two in my mind for the men's side.
Is your obvious answer on women's side, or is your obvious answer you think is on the men's side?
I wish I didn't say obvious answer. There's two people that you can talk about here, in my eyes, on the men's side. The women's side, it's a little bit more of a shakeup.
I am the complete opposite of where you are right now.
Okay.
I think that the women's side right now, today, again, not talking about anything extra other than in this moment where we are right now, I think our player of the year on the women's side is Eden Battle.
I would have her and Amani. I would have her over Amani currently, but those are the two names.
Yeah, I would have her over Amani. I mean,
Jefferson, that is. Sorry, for our viewers who might be unfamiliar.
And I'm not saying that in this. And you said it. I'm agreeing with you, but I'm not agreeing with you because Imani has had a bad year. I think our sample size is so small.
Right.
Get it? And
that's why it's kind of a fun question.
And that's how the question was framed up.
Yeah.
Of if the season ended right now. So with this small sample size, if the season ended right now, I would say Eden Battle is the player of the year. That's why I'm saying it's more obvious to me, my opinion, on the women's side. Now, the men's side is where I think you got a different conversation. A longer conversation can be had, and I think there are definitely two names that come to mind quickly on the men's side. I've already dropped both of their names.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about them already.
Yeah, I mean, one of them obviously is Jakari Lane.
Yes, obviously.
He's in the mix.
Yes.
I think J.O. is in the mix.
Yes. Those are the two obvious ones.
Those are the two obvious ones, but I will give you a third that I have mentioned his team and not mentioned him. But he was our newcomer of the week last week.
Yes.
LJ Thomas at Austin Peay.
Yes, correct.
He's in.
You're 100% correct on that.
Right now, if things ended today,
that would be the third name.
That's the third name. That's why and I'm not saying that I think going back to what the obvious on the women's side, I just think it's more clear cut right now today. The men's side, that's a 3-man race today, right now. I get it. It's we've been playing basketball for 2 weeks. I understand it's early, but right now, yeah, that men's conversation is kind of deep, and it's definitely those three. I think you got Lane, you got J.O., and you got LJ from Austin Peay. I think can make a case for any of them. They've all had so far, again, small sample size. They've all had that game where you're just like, oh, he's him. Like, and they've all had their moment. I mean, even with the loss to Sanford, Jakari Lane was balling in that game. I mean, J.O. started the season with 30 and 10. We know what LJ did against Butler. I mean, they've all got that game early. That, again, we're talking about this 2 weeks in. We got an MVP 2 weeks into the season. If we had one, we got a tie right now if I had to vote. So I couldn't break that tie. I'm not going to try to break that tie. But I will say right now, those are the three that are kind of standing out and leading the pack. That's where I would go.
That's fair enough. That's all we got from the mailbag. But fans, hey, Shoot us some questions.
Yeah, we gotta fill that mailbag up. up. Stretch this segment. That was a good question. And I think that's yeah. I'm trying to in my mind contradict and try to find another argument, but
Will Pruitt could, at the end of the year, I think, put himself in that conversation as well. I think,
and that's interesting because you're naming another person on
Lipscomb teams, right?
Perfect. Yeah.
And I think Jo would be the obvious reason had a couple of those recent results went the other way, and they've been super close games, just unlucky bounces of the ball at the end of the games.
Yeah.
But I think Jo would be more of an obvious pick in that case.
Yep.
But Jakari's been great. I mean, he's gonna be a household name.
He's already a household name here in this house, in the ASUN. So obviously, there's a lot of exciting things. It's early, but we're locked in. Volleyball championship this week. A lot of great games on the slate for ASUN men's and women's basketball. I'm William Hall in the building with Patrick Catazone. ASUN Game Day podcast wrapping up. See you next week.